a demo. In demo, firstly, we will go through how to go to Azure portal and create a communication service, and then get a connection string from a communication service. And then that's all. Then after getting a communication string, we will jump to integrating the ACS GUI libraries demo. So after this workshop, you will be aware of how to get a full web and mobile application integrated to Azure Communication Service backend. Before we start the presentation, we have a sponsored prize for hackathon, and the qualification criteria for the sponsored prize is your project must use at least one of the ACS GUI libraries. And apart from that, there are few judging criteria, and they are mostly about the impact of your project and what is the quality of the project. Like, are you solving a problem, and how your user interface look? And there will also be a bonus point if you can share the feedback to us. Like, you are going to use a GUI library. If you have any thoughts about interface and the documentation, please share with us. And the prize is like, we are happy to have a dinner with you. And also there is some cash prize for a 2,000 Canadian dollar. Okay, so let's start with what is Azure Communication Service. So currently we are on a Zoom call, and there is also Microsoft Teams. I hope all of you are using Teams and Zoom for your everyday work purpose, but have you ever tried to develop your own application that looks like a Teams or Zoom? Yeah, send me a like if you have ever tried it. Okay, and when we try to build any application like a Teams or Zoom, then we need a backend, or the backend that can provide us a video service and a voice service, as well as a chat features. It's not very easy to implement backend that is fully scalable and handles all part of communication in a few days. It takes months and years to build a perfect system. So that is what Azure Communication Service is. So ACS is a platform that enables developers and organizations to build communication feature and connect user experience across application and devices. So what you need to do is just go to Azure portal, create a communication service, then you have your backend ready. And ACS is built on top of Azure, so it follows all the security and compliance requirement from Azure, and Azure is a proven security cloud. And also ACS is using same backend as used by Microsoft Teams. You may be aware that Microsoft Teams has millions of users that use the platform daily, and it's fully scalable. And with video, voice, and a chat text messaging, ACS also provide SMS services. Okay, when we are talking about voice and video over IP, so ACS provide an API that can be used for one-to-one or a group call. So when we are talking about a group call, this is similar to like a current Zoom call experience. You will just get an API. Using that API, multiple users can join the call. And it can be a one-to-one. And the good thing is you can also integrate ACS into your existing application, by which from your application, you can join existing Teams call. The next capability is a chat capability. When in a chat capability, definitely there is a one-to-one and a group chat functionality available. And with that, there are many features like a chat history that can be customized as per your requirement. You can just send in your API how long the chat history you need. And then there are read receipts, typing indicator, and automated system messages functionality. And one of the features that I like most is adaptive card. And the adaptive cards mean like when we are talking with a bot or any web framework, then in a chat option, we can have a preloaded card with the selections like with the OK button and a cancel button. Yeah, that's a very good feature. And there are also push notifications available for a chat when you receive a message. And chat is also compatible with Microsoft Teams. So you can also receive messages from Microsoft Teams into your existing application. There are, let me move it to another side. Yeah. There is also a SMS and a telephone capability. So I will just briefly talk about it. Telephone is like you can get a phone number using ACS service, but currently that United States numbers are supported, but not Canada, and our team is working on it. Hopefully soon this feature will also be available in Canada. Okay, the important factor that we think about is how to use Azure Communication Service. So a good point is you don't need to have any telephone or voice engineering expertise required because backend is already ready for you. It's scalable. You just need to integrate into your application. And to integrate ACS into your application, there are SDKs available from Azure. So you just need to integrate that SDK into your application, and you are going to provide a connection string to SDK with a user token. Then that's all. Then that SDK will handle everything for you. And there is a documentation available for Azure Communication Service. I will quickly navigate to the documentation link. So this is the documentation for Azure Communication Service. When you will go to the documentation, the first thing that you will see is what is Azure Communication Service. And after that, there is create a communication service resource. Creating a communication service resource is a primary part. There are many ways to create a communication service resource, but today we will just talk about Azure portal. So instead of going through this document, I will just quickly jump to a demo. So you are going to use your student account to create a communication service resource. So you don't need to sign up for student account. You just directly can go and sign in. And after signing in, you can find a resource group from here. And after finding the resource group, you can just click create a resource group. And after creating the resource group, then search for communication service. You can see the logo there, and then click on new create a resource and select your any resource group and type a name. That's all. Then you can review and create a communication service resource. I already have a few resources created here for my account. And after creating the communication service resource, then you can go to the keys. And at the keys, you will see an endpoint that will indicate the connection string. So you can use any of this. I will delete this resource after the call so I can show how it looks. So this is how the connection string looks. And you make sure when you are using a connection string, use endpoint with it. And after that, you will create identity and access token. So we have our backend ready. Now we need to create users for our ACS backend. To create a user, there are many options. The easiest option is a JavaScript option because it has only 4 lines of code. So with the 4 lines of code, we can host this as an Azure function. For example, I already have this function hosted here. I just provided my connection string. Now, if I say get a function URL, you can see I created my user token. And now what I just want to do is I want to use this user token to join a call. So then I will go to the documentation. Then I can go to voice and video calling, and I want to join a Teams call. Add a Teams video calling to your client app. And if I go to this page, you will notice that there are only 2 pages, one HTML page, and then we have one JavaScript page. So I'm not going through this complete demo, but once you will build it, you will see some page like this. And after with these 2 code files, and then you will notice that these files are asking me to provide token credentials. So whatever the token I get here, I will just paste my token value here, and I will paste the Teams meeting URL here, and I will be successfully able to join the call. Yeah, so if you are going to use a chat sample, just go here. There are examples for everything, and these are for SDKs. And at the bottom, if you scroll bottom, there are UI libraries. Get started with UI libraries. So the benefit of UI library is now this UI does not look great. It just provide a basic functionality. But if you are looking for exactly Teams-like feature into your existing application, just integrate the UI library into your application. And then the only thing that you just need to do is create an Azure function to get a user token. So yeah, that's all about Azure portal and a connection string. Now now Amy will talk about how to integrate ACS UI library into your application. Amy?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. So let me share my screen to continue the presentation. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Cool. Thank you. So thank you guys. So I'm Amy. So I'm the iOS developer from the Azure Communication Service mobile UI library. So typically I will introduce what is the UI library and give some concept and idea what is it. And then my colleague will do some demo about that. I would briefly introduce what is ACS UI library first. So as Interpower present, we have a lot of service and API to enable our developer customer to integrate the app or their web or their just their product to with the ACS service. But typically what those core SDK provide is the API. So if you want to integrate with the ACS service, you need to build your own library. But what ACS UI library provide is we help the customer, the developer, to build the UI library. And it's very easy to integrate these UI levels library into their product. And it also have a lot of feature like the customization, like the accessibility, and yeah, just to give you guys some thought of what's it at. And then we come to the question is like, why a customer, why the ACS communication developer would like to use the UI library? The obvious one is like to build the UI layer of their product is very hard and it's very slow development. It needs a lot of time, need a lot of design, discussion, design, editing, improvements, this kind of thing. And also, if they want to consider more capability, like the accessibility, localization, this kind of thing, they need to spend more time on that. So that's why we come with the UI libraries. This UI library is like a very simple one, but with fully capability of the ACS communication service, like calling, chatting, all this kind of thing. We are going to integrate them into the UI library. And also this UI library is really, it's an open source library. So typically it can take as example to our ACS developer, how you can build your own product, UI layer based on the open source project. And also we help our customers spend a lot of time in investigate what's the best user experience during the call, during the chatting, and we will just spend a lot of efforts to convert those research into the real products in our UI libraries. And also based on our research, we found that the metric data shows that those ACS communication customer, what they want is kind of unified. So typically they just want a UI label which have the capability to make a call, to make a to chat, but with some the dominant speaker, this kind of function, this kind of thing. So with a unified UI layer with some customization ability to our customers, we fully believe it can meet their requirement, and it can help the developer, the ACS communication developer, more fast and easy delivery their products with the calling and the chatting and all the other capability inside the ACS communication service. So then I will show the mobile UI's demo. This is only one page. So typically this is right now the public release version of our mobile side. So we have a mobile side and the website, and they are in kind of two progress right now. And Andrew will just introduce the mobile later, introduce the website later. But for mobile side, you can see right now for the public release version, we already have fully enabled the video call function. So the people can see the remote participate, can see the grid view, can see the preview, and there is control bar here. So the view is the UI layers interaction is very smoothly, and it totally meets our customers' needs when they want to build a calling experience based on the ACS communication service. And then talk back to what's the big feature of our UI libraries. So the biggest one is we try to make our UI library fully customized for our customer. The user of the UI library can customize the UI library based on their own product's design. For example, they try to integrate our UI library into their existing app. And for their app, there is already some, for example, color patterns. They inside their existing app, their main color is red. But for our libraries, we will enable the function for them to change our UI libraries color pattern based on the existing one. And also in future, we would enable the capability to edit the font size, the font style, this kind of thing, and even to enable them to switch the position of different UI components. It's just to make sure that our customer have a fully customization for the UI library when they are trying to implement it into their own products. And then is the accessibilities. So accessibility is something when the company, when the app or the web page trying to have those disabled people to easy use this app and the web, is we want to build the accessibility inside the product. So typically for company or developer or designer, they need to spend a lot of time to do research what's the best principle for the accessibility, and it's kind of take them a lot of efforts on it. But on our UI library, because we already have a very good research on the accessibility principle based on what's the disabled people needs, we already have a very good data. So we are based on that one, our UI library have already enabled accessibility inside the UI libraries. So if the customer developer use our UI library rather than write the UI layer by themselves, the UI library will provide a very good accessibility to the customers. And then it's the localization. So a localization is a very key feature that can enable a large amount of customers. So once the products have set up the localization, it means that the products can used by more people in more countries, in more places, and in more the cultures, this kind of thing. So localization is something we can also help our customer to fully easily adopt this function just inside our UI library. And it's really helpful to increase the customer's user experience, and also at the same time, just help them to have more customers. And then it's come to the most good feature for our UI library is it's really fast adoption into the existing or even a new products from our customers. So once we have some new release, the customer don't need to do anything. They just need to pull the latest build of our library. And then all those new features, those good improvement would be shown inside their products. And how here is 2 sample code. So when you or our customers developer want to launch this UI layer, what code they need to write inside their app. You can see the top one is the Swift one, which is for iOS. The bottom one is for Android. So typically there is only 5 lines they need to add inside their code. And then those beautiful component UI library would show up inside their app or the web page without any other things you need to do inside of it. So typically speaking, it's a really easy and very friendly usage for them. Yeah, typically it's just 5 to 6 lines. It's really an easy adoption inside their inside their products. Yeah, that's for the UI libraries introduction. Then I think Jim will do some demos to let you fully further understanding what the libraries looks like and how to use that. And it's a really easy and a good experience. So Jim, can you take over it?
Yep, let me share my screen so you can hear me. So let me just share the link in chat for the quick start that I'll be going through. And let me know when you guys can see my screen.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, cool. So today I'll be going through how to quickly get started with using the mobile communication UI library. Because both iOS and Android, they are pretty similar. So I'm just going to go through the iOS one. And so once you click on the aka.ms link that is shared in chat, you'll be lead to here. And you can see there's web, Android, and iOS. And I'll be going through the iOS one. There are some prerequisites that you will need to fulfill, such as having a Azure Communication Service backend available and ready, like what Interval demonstrated. And because I'm going to be making an iOS app, it's going to require Mac that will be using Xcode. So let's just directly jump into it. So by following the quick start guide, everything's pretty straightforward. So I'm starting an iOS app, just naming the same project name. You can change this to whichever project name you want, but there's a small caveat, which I will mention later. And for the interface, I'm choosing Storyboard, which is using UIKit, but this can definitely work with Swift UI as well. So let me just go ahead and create that. And take some time, gonna save it on desktop and create. And the wheel of death it's showing. So meanwhile, let's go through the next steps, which is to install Cocoapods, which can then pull in the Azure Communication UI library for Cocopod. And so you can see that's being created here, as well as the project on the desktop. You can see it. So the first step is to navigate into using terminal to navigate into the project. So UI library quick start, and you can see the files here that's just created. And we do pod init to initialize Cocopod for the project. And if there's an issue, you just need to have a later version of the Cocopod and that should work. So just let that run, and it should generate a pod file that you can see here. And we just replace everything inside of that pod file. Feel free to use any editor that you want, but for this demo, I'm just going to use them to just be quicker and delete everything and replace with the content that's in the quick start and save. So once that's done, then we can just run pod install update repo just to actually get the package from Cocopod. This may take some time if you're running for the first time, but I think I have some local cache saved, so it shouldn't take too long. And let's just go ahead and look at the next step. So one thing after we do the install, we need to open the XC workspace project file, because right now we're having the XC Xcode project, but then we will need to have the workspace to be able to see the Cocoapods. So let me just open this file, the .xc workspace. And so because I have both open, so you can see that there's Cocopod, but then the file's not loaded. So I'm just gonna close and reopen that one again. Hopefully that will work in this demo. And yeah, you can see now there's a drop down and you can see all the files as well as the pod file. And yeah, let's continue the demo. So the next step is that because we want to be able to join a call and able to speak and then have a camera on. So we're going to let the application know that we want the app to get permission to those things. So we go to the info.plist and we open it as the source code and just copy the XML. Make sure you're pasting that at the base of the dictionary. And just to save that, and we can validate that by opening again in the property list. So then you can see that there's a privacy camera usage and then the privacy microphone usage. And because this Cocopod is currently still in beta for the iOS, we need to turn on some configurations to turn off the bitcode. So we go to the project and we go to build settings. And we go to all in combined, and then we search bitcode. And here we just disable that, and that should be good. And the next step is it's the 5 lines that Ing mentioned that we can just quickly get started. So these are the 5 lines to actually get started, but I'm just going to follow this quick start guide, which will include like a button to trigger this event to start the composite. So go to the view controller file and just replace everything. And you see there's some angle brackets here that we need to replace to get the information about the token and the call you want to join. But for this demo, I'm going to go a step further to join a Teams meeting. So we just replace this option. And so we'll be joining a Teams meeting rather than a group call. And here you can see that I have a Microsoft Teams meeting open. So I'm just going to copy the meeting link and just replace that here. And I will name myself Jim iOS. And to get a token like what Interpol had previously shown, we can just go to the Azure service, communication service that we created, and just go to identity and user access token to generate the token. So here we created an identity and we just copied this token over here. So I'm just hard coding everything, but feel free to call the API endpoint to actually generate this token. And so when that's done, we should be able to launch. But for the purpose of this demo, I don't want it to compile for a long time. So I'm going to just do some quick configuration to make sure it's not going to take a long time. But you can pretty much just ignore this part. So I'm just removing the build only, so it'll build faster. And I will build that to my iPhone. So let's just start. And you can see an app being installed soon. And it's building. So meanwhile, I'm just going to share with you guys, if you guys don't have an Azure account, if you are a student, you can go to this link, Microsoft Azure for Students. You can just search that on any search engine, and you can get $100 credit to try out the Azure Communication Service. And if that doesn't work for you, or if for some reason you already use your student credits, feel free to reach out to us, and we have some Azure Pass credits that we can hand out. And feel free to reach out to us in this Discord later after this workshop. So while it's still building, let's look at my phone, and let's go to the meeting. So we should be able to see the the mobile app user joining the Microsoft Teams meeting soon, once it's built and we launch the app. So first, because it's first time launching and building, so it may take a little while, but subsequently it should be okay. So it looks like it's built and it's being installed here. And we should see that opening soon. Okay, so it looks like we just see the button here. So once I click the button, start experience, it's going to ask me for my microphone permission, and I'm going to say yes. And I'm just going to turn on the video so you can see me as well. So hello everyone. And I'm just going to join the call. So it's going to say waiting for the host to let you in. So you can see that in the Teams meeting, we can see that our app is trying to join Microsoft Teams meeting. And yeah, so you can see myself here. So yeah, that's the demo. And now I will hand over to Anjul. And yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for that demo, Jim. Hello, everyone. My name is Anjul Garg, and I'm a senior software engineer for Microsoft here at Vancouver. I work specifically with the web UI team, and we build rich communication experiences for web, for Azure Communication Services. So let me share my screen and start this presentation. I'll tell you a bit about our web UI libraries for communication, and also do a short little demo where we'll create a React app from scratch for calling in under 10 minutes. So if you want to follow along, you're more than welcome to. Alrighty, I hope my screen is visible.
Not yet.
Yeah, my computer is frozen for some reason.
It may
Looks
ask
like-
you for a permission slip because it's the first time if you're sharing screen.
Do you see my video feed or is it frozen?
I can see your video feed.
Yeah, I just see the screen share is black.
Do you want to try canceling and re-sharing your screen, maybe?
Am I back?
Yep, I can see it now.
Awesome. Awesome. Demo gods are not pleased today, but we'll make it work. Okay, can everyone see the slide? Okay, I hope yes.
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so as I mentioned, I work for the Communication Services Web UI team, and we provide rich web-based communication experiences to our customers using an open source library. This open source library is called Communication React. And yes, as the name suggests, it is built using React, but that does not mean that you cannot use it in non-React environments. This library can be partially used in non-React environments, and I will talk about how you can do that in a little bit, okay? So let's jump into it. Here you see a screenshot, and this screenshot is of a meetings composite. So two things here, meetings composite. Meetings, simple, you have video calling capabilities, you have chat capabilities, and a composite. So what's a composite? A composite is pre-designed, pre-packaged, pre-delivered, pre-developed product that our open source library offers that you can just integrate into your existing app with very few lines of code. And once you connect it with a communication services backend by providing a user ID and access token, you get all the rich functionalities of a modern communication experience. So screen sharing, managing participants, managing your audio and video devices, dominant speakers, automatic video gallery, tiles, so on and so forth. So if you see here, this composite is built using smaller components. Now, these components are also exposed by our UI library, and these are built using React. They need to be used with the React applications. You cannot use them in non-React applications just yet. We are working on it. But yes, you can use these composites with any non-React application. So let's talk a bit more about these components and composites. So as I mentioned, these components are basic building blocks for building complex communication experiences. Let's say you wanted to build a UI from scratch. You did not want to use the pre-designed composites that we expose. You could build such UI experiences using our components. They're highly flexible components. You can customize them really deeply. You can change their colors, the way they look, their size and responsiveness. They're also built on top of Fluent UI. Fluent UI is an open source UI library by Microsoft. So if you know how to use it already, using these components will be really easy for you. And composites are delightful turnkey experiences for common communication scenarios. So calling, chat, we provide really drop-in solutions you could easily integrate into your existing apps with just a few lines of code. And as I mentioned, these are built using base components, and these are responsive, accessible, localized, and performant. So I'll just show you what all that means. But if you want to follow along, I would encourage you to open this documentation in your machines. So all our documentation is stored or is hosted on Storybook. Storybook is this really cool tool you can use for showcasing your UI libraries. So if you've not heard about it, do check it out. So you can open this link if you want. It's aka.ms/ACS Storybook. So let's visit the link and see what it looks like. And here it is. This is our Storybook. It talks in depth about the UI library, its capabilities. It has a lot of quick starts, code samples, and all the goodies you need to get started really easily. So yeah, I talked about accessibility, localization, responsiveness, et cetera, et cetera. We will also be building a call sample app today from scratch using React. So before we do all that, let me show you what the end result would look like. So if you are on Storybook, you could simply go to Call Composite under Composites and go to a theme example. And here you could click on Preview tab here. So you see I get a blank screen. Fair enough, because this preview needs certain attributes to work. So let's give it those attributes. We really only need to care about a user ID and a valid token. So let's get that. As Jim mentioned, it's really easy to generate. So I can generate this here. I get a user ID in my Azure portal. I can paste that here, and a user access token. I can paste that here, and you'll see it's initializing. Awesome, it has initialized. So this is a call configuration page where you could turn on and off your mic, turn on and off your camera. Let me actually turn off my camera and zoom so I can show you how the camera functionality looks here. Stop video. So if I turn my camera on, you'll be able to see my preview here. Yay, hello. And you can select your input device. You can select your camera device. You can select a speaker through which you want your audio to come out. And let me show you what localization would look like. So we have support for most common languages in the world. So Chinese, Portuguese, Dutch, Japanese, Italian, French, Spanish, Germany. So I click on German and it turns into German text. If I change it to Spanish, Español, French, Italian, Chinese, yeah, a lot of support. So that's awesome. We also have support for some of the tricky languages, for example, Arabic, where the orientation of text changes. So the text goes from left to right. Sorry, from right to left. So we have that too. But for that, I'll have to choose Arabic. Where is it? Was it Turkish? No, I don't see it here. But yeah, we do have support for right to left text as well. Let me change it back to left to right. You can also change a theme really easily, so it's highly customizable. So let's say you worked for Facebook, you wanted to drop this composite into Facebook, you would want to match its colors and its font to that of what Facebook uses. You could do that easily. We provide complete theming support. It has dark themes, it has themes-like themes, it has word themes, and you could provide it your own theme as well. For custom themes, all the information is in ACS Storybook. You could change its font as well, and let's see how it looks like in a mobile phone. So I'll change it to a large mobile, and I'll change the form factor to mobile. And you see it's responsive, looks great in mobiles as well. So let's change it back to desktop. Let's change the form factor back to desktop and show you how it looks. If I start a call, it's a lobby. I am in the call. And you can see my camera. You can see I've unmuted. I can unmute myself. I can share a screen. I can look at all the participants. I can manage my devices. I can hang up the call. So pretty much everything you need for a modern calling experience is already provided to you. So let's see how we can build this app from scratch. So let's do that. For the purpose of this demo, we'll be using VS Code. And we'll be using a simple create React app for this. So go ahead, create a new React app. We'll need some boilerplate for that. So simple command, create React app, template TypeScript, and let's give our project a name, let's say calling. So I won't run this command just yet because I already have created a boilerplate app here called calling. And I went ahead and I removed all the unnecessary code from app.tsx. Now our app only returns a hello world. Okay, so that's done. What else do we need? We need to install this open source library in our project to use it. So let's go to our storybook. Let's go to overview again. And we have the installation command here, npm I save Azure Communication React. You can run this in your project and you'll have the library. I have done that as well, so I won't be doing it. So what I'll do is I will actually start this app because it can sometimes take a while to start. So, but, oh, I need to be inside my calling folder. Oops. Oh my God, can't type today. Okay. So while it's starting, let's add some sample code into this project. Okay. So inside our source, I'll create a new file. I'll call it call composite.tsx. Now we need to add some code into it. And we'll go back to our storybook, come to composites, and the composites come to adapters. Inside adapters, you see setting up adapters, call adapter. So an adapter is basically the logical building block of our composite. It provides all the logic for handling a composite. I won't be diving deep into it. You can read about it all in the storybook. But for this, we just need to copy paste this piece of code here. I go back to my VS Code, copy past this code, and you see we don't have any errors because we already installed communication libraries. Let's save it. Let's go back to our app.tsx. So in our app.tsx, we need to return this component. So this component is called call adapter example. So let's go back to our app. Let's return this component and let's import it. Okay, we have the component in our app. But you see we have some errors here. And that's because this component needs some props. Similar to the props we used in our storybook, it will need a user ID, an access token. It will need a call locator. A call locator is a unique ID that helps ACS identify your call and allows others to join your call if you share your call locator with them. It also needs a display name. So let's add all those attributes. So display name, my name is Anjul. So I'll add a display name, user ID. So for user ID, we can go back to our portal, generate a new user, copy the user ID, and paste it here. Okay. We need an access token. We can do that by coming here, copying it, and pasting it. Okay, and oops. And we also need a call locator. Call locator is a group ID and it's a random GUID. You can use any random GUID you want for your call locator. So I'll give it a random GUID. But we still have some errors in our user ID. And that's because you don't provide a user ID as a string here, we need to provide an object. And in that object, we need to give it a communication user ID and then provide a user ID. All right, awesome. No issues found. Looks like it works. So let's go back and see what this looks like. Come on, refresh. Okay, it's initializing. Nice. We have made this call composite work in our React app. And as you can see, it's working. You can see me. You can change your devices if you want. So let's start a call. Okay. So I am in this call and I'll turn my camera on. And you can see it's just me in this call, Anjul. So let's try joining this call from another web page. For that, I'll go back to my storybook. And in the theme example that we used before, let's go to preview again. Let's give it, oh, it already has the information we need. And sorry, we need to go to join existing call in call composite because we already have a call that we want to join. So we will give it the information it needs. So it needs a user ID and it needs a call locator. So here's our, oops, let me copy the call locator again. There's the call locator, the GUID we assigned it earlier. Let's generate a new user ID for it. So every unique participant in a call needs to have a unique user ID and access token. And access token. And it's called John Smith. That's fine. Let's join the call. And you will see me on the other end of this call. And sure enough, you see me. Hello. So yeah, it's really powerful. And I'm really excited to see you guys use our composites or components in your hackathon projects today. Please also note that immediately after this workshop, we have a fun trivia hosted by Microsoft for all of you. It's non-tech, non-work related, non-hackathon related, just a test of knowledge. And it's going to be a fun time, so do join there as well. And now we're happy to take any questions you might have. And thanks, that was my demo for you.
I think there was a question asked in the comment section earlier. It said, is it necessary to use React in the project?
Yes, so that's partially true. If you want to use the components exposed by UI library, you will need to use React. But if you wanted to drop the composites, which is basically an entire calling or chat app into your non-React application, you can do that. Let me actually show you how you can do that. I think I missed showing that. So here's the storybook. If you come to composites, you can go to cross-framework support, and you will find all the information you need for using our library in a non-React environment.
Yeah, so thank you for that. So a quick announcement for the hackers that are in the room. So as you see in the chat section, the password to claim your stamp for attending the Microsoft workshop is Azure ACS, all in lowercase. So you have to remember that passcode in order to be able to claim your stamp, which will be your ticket to the raffle giveaway.
Yeah, thank you for sharing the tokens, Jason.
Are there any other questions from the hackers? Then feel free to post them in the chat, or you can also unmute and ask directly as well.
Yeah, but even if you have questions later, feel free to reach out the Microsoft channels that we have. One of us would always be online there.
Well, thank you so much, Amy, Inderpal, Angel, and Jim for hosting the workshop. I'm sure a lot of our hackers are engaged to engaged for the sponsor prize as well. So if there are no questions, I'm thinking we can actually take a quick break until 3:30, which is when our Microsoft trivia will start. How does that sound for everyone?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And we'll be resuming back at 3:30 for our trivia game. Spoiler alert, we are giving out $10 worth of Amazon gift cards to our top 3 trivia points winners. So I'll definitely sit tight and join the game. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.